Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachayani Nevasesha Sanyavadi Praskacha Disajani. Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sundarbhyeva Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So this evening we have a power cut, but we're going ahead with candle power and other power sources. So I'm continuing with these verses from Gauranga, Stava, Kalpa, Vriksha. So we just recap a little. Gauranga, Stava, Kalpa, Vriksha is written by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. He, of course, is one of the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Raghunath. And when Srila Krishna's Kaviraj wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, he included all of the verses, the 10 verses from Gauranga, Stava, Kalpa, Vriksha in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Ansha Lila, chapter 16 onwards. Therefore, these verses are particularly significant. So the first verse, Gauranga Hridaya Mudaya Mamadayati. Let us try to meditate on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let us pray that Spurti, the form of Lord Chaitanya, can awaken Mam within my Hridaya heart, Madayati, and madden me. There's material madness, which we see on a Friday night. This is actually Friday night. Saturday night, people doing crazy things. And then there's a type of spiritual madness which the gopis exhibited for Krishna and the cowhead boys. So verse 1, Lord Chaitanya, let me meditate on Lord Chaitanya, Gauranga, whose movements are like that of a maddened elephant. On seeing his face, one rejects the beauty of the moon. His body is like a mountain of gold, and his words like waves of nectar. The second verse, decorated with the jewels of paleness, becoming stunned, stuttering, trembling, perspiring, dancing, and laughing for the pleasure of Lord Jagannatha. May that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awaken in my heart and madden me with love. Of course, those symptoms I described are Sattvika Astika bhavs, perspiration, laughter, asru, crying, shaking. Laughter is not actually a Sattvika Astika bhav, it would be an Anubhav. But they can mix together, no harm. Sattvika Asta, 8. There is 8 Sattvika Astika bhavs. When the living entity, Jiva, comes in contact with Sudasattva, Aladini, Samvit, and Samdini, then the Ladini aspect of Sudasattva flows in the heart. And this is intense pleasure, and it exhibits itself as Sattvika Astika bhavs. And then there's different levels of exhibiting Sattvika Astika bhavs. The first would be smoldering, Dumyita, Dwalita, burning, and then burning brightly, and then shining very brightly. Udipta, Sudipta. So of course these are exhibited only on the liberated stage. Sahajiyas sometimes imitate. There's one very nice story. this is from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, so I will digress, that one party of Vaishnavas, they wanted to hold a Krishna Katha and attract many people. So they thought, if we can have someone in the crowd exhibit symptoms of ecstasy, then the whole crowd will be impressed and our function will be a great success. You know? So they paid one man. This is called Asahajya, Prakrita Asahajya. And halfway through the Krishna Katha, this man got up, fell on the ground, rolled on the ground, started to cry. They can turn it on and off, you know, like the electricity. We have no electricity at the moment. Like you turn on the AC and turn it off. You see this when they give the Oscar Awards. Not the men, but the women, they come and then they start crying. It's like a switch, they just turn it on. You know? So Prakrita Sahajya, this man started crying, jumping, rolling on the ground, and the crowd were amazed because they're ordinary people and they didn't understand. Ordinary folk. So then the program ended very successfully, at least according to the organizers. So then there was another group, and they were in opposition, you know, like the EFF and the ANC. Of course, we won't talk about politics. So this other group, they thought, all right, we're going to have a Krishna Katha this weekend, and we're going to attract more people. And what we're going to do is we'll get this man, and instead of rolling on the ground for 10 minutes, we'll have him rolling on the ground for half an hour, imitating a stage above. So they started talking Krishna Katha, and then after some minutes, this man got up and he started jumping, he started crying, he started shaking, he fell on the ground, and this went on. So the organizers wanted it to go on for like 20 minutes. But after 5 minutes, the man stopped and he got up and he just sat down. And the organizers were very angry. This is from Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. So the organizers, they said, look, you know, I mean, you were supposed to be in ecstasy for half an hour. How come you only did it for 5 minutes? The man said, well, you know, it was hot. It's very hot. And you only paid me 4 annas. So this is called 4 anna bhav, or 100 annas to a rupee. And at the moment there are 5 rupees to a rand. So you can imagine an anna is like one old South African cent. So they call this 4 anna bhav. So Sahajiyas. So now Gauranga Stava Kalpa Vriksha, text number 3. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would, those around him will be sprinkled with water from the reddish syringes of his eyes, and he was beat and he would bite his charming lip. May that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awaken in my heart and madden me with love. Text 4, sometimes when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was at the house of Kasimisa, he became greatly aggrieved due to feelings of separation for Lord Krishna, because he was in Radha Bhav Prabhu Sad Abhiman, he had the conception of being in Radharani's mood. His transcendental body would become slackened, his arms and legs would become elongated. He'd roll on the ground and piteously weep while chanting Krishna's holy name. So of course this is the real thing. Text 5. How wonderful it is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his room, the Gambhira, although there were 3 high walls and 3 strongly bolted doors, and later fell down amongst the cows of the Tailangi district, where his limbs retracted into his body like that of a tortoise. So this is an interesting point, because some of the acharyas, they say the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Jagannath Puri, it wasn't Nara Leela. It was Adbhuta, astonishing Leela, more than Nara Leela. So Nara is human-like. So we do not expect a human being's arms and legs to retract into their body like that of a tortoise. So in that sense, it's Adbhuta, astonishing. But others will say, Lord Chaitanya was in Jagannath Puri. Jagannath Puri represents Dwarka. Jagannath is Dwarkadish, and therefore Aishvarya Gyan, opulence. So yes, it's not Nara Leela, but it's in a different sense. What human being would have his limbs retract into his body like that of a tortoise, or elongated, so there was 6 inches between the arm, the elbow, the hands, etc. This is a very subtle point. So then text 5, now today, text 6. Because of separation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because of separation from the residents of Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke like a madman. His intelligence was transformed. Day and night he rubbed his moon-like face against the walls, and blood flowed from the injuries. May that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awaken in my heart and madden me with love. So you might say, well, how is this? He's Lord Chaitanya, he's God. His body is Satchidananda. How can blood flow? Again, it's Nara Leela. He's presenting himself as a human being. God doesn't have to eat. God doesn't have to sleep. And yet he lies down to sleep. And Sankara Pandit massages his feet. He takes prasad, cooked by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and others. So he's playing the part of human being, Nara Leela. So in separation, within the Gambhira, he would try to escape. Sometimes he would escape, although there were 3 high walls and 3 strongly bolted doors. Sometimes he wouldn't escape, and he'd rub his lips, his nose, and his cheeks against the wall, and then blood would flow. The inconceivable potency of God. So these are feelings of separation. So my last talk, I did speak a little bit about viraha, or separation, and explained basically 4 categories of separation. You may remember Purvarag, Prangachicha, Man, anger, and Pravas, and then subdivisions. Sometimes this whole idea of separation becomes difficult to understand. When one experiences separation for Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Vrindavan, Lalita, Vishaka, or one's guru, and it's pure, it's not contaminated, imbued within that separation is Ladini Shakti. So what is Ladini Shakti? Pure pleasure, pure unadulterated pleasure. So one's heart, consciousness, chitta, becomes saturated with pure unadulterated pleasure, although it seems that one is suffering due to separation. Lord Chaitanya rubbing his mouth against the wall, but actually he's experiencing the highest happiness. Ladini Shakti taken to its highest limit, Anurag, but beyond Anurag, Mahabhav. Then there's different categories of Mahabhav, Ruda Mahabhav, Adi Ruda Mahabhav. And then within Adi Ruda Mahabhav there's Modan, and then Mohanaikya and Madanaikya. So Lord Chaitanya would be experiencing Mohanaikya, Adiruddha Mahabhav. Extremely high level of separation, and his consciousness would be absorbed in Hridini Shakti, pure pleasure, unadulterated pleasure. Another example, it seems like Lord Chaitanya is suffering. It seems the Vaishnava is suffering in separation from his or her guru. So an example, that when I was young, living in England, in the winter it would snow. Of course, in South Africa, the only snow we see is in the fridge. So you touch the snow and you make snowballs, you make a snowman. And after a while, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, your hand becomes numb and it starts to burn. But it's burning from something that's cold. So it seems contradictory. Snow is cold, ice is cold, and yet your hand is burning. So separation, it seems to be painful, but actually it's the highest bliss. But one has to understand the separation must be, the object of attachment in one's separation must be Krishna or his associates, Radharani, Lalita, Vishaka, Champakalata, Chitra, Ranga, Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari. Vrindavan, you can have separation towards Vrindavan, Sridham Mayapur and Jagannath Puri. It has to be towards a spiritual personality, not a material personality. In the material world, obviously, the man is attached to his wife is attached to her husband, and parents are very attached to their children. Sometimes the child dies, sometimes the wife dies, coronavirus, suicide, or whatever. And then the husband or the wife, whoever is left living, they suffer. They become depressed. Sometimes they even commit suicide. They become disturbed. They have to go for counseling. They have to see a psychiatrist who gives them pills so they can sleep at night. So this is the complete opposite. And this is hellish. But that same attachment, when transferred to great devotees of the Lord, moksha dwaram upavritam, opens the doors of liberation, third canto. So we take the same attachment we have to Johannesburg or Durban or Blue Lagoon, and we transfer it to Vrindavan, Sevakunj, Radhakund, Govardhan Hill. We transfer it to the bank of the Ganges, Swananda Sakata Kunj. We transfer it to Srivasangam. So you can transfer that attachment to a place. Then you can transfer the attachment and set it to my wife and husband and child and parents, to Krishna's family, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yasoda, Lalita, Vishaka, as I mentioned. And in our particular line, we are Rupanugas, supposed to be, very much attached and following in the footsteps of a Rupa Goswami, who in the spiritual world is none other than Rupa Manjari. So one can have this attachment also to one's Diksha Guru. Recently, Srila Bhakti Maharaj has left. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, I have a very wonderful picture of him, someone just gave me. Srila Krishna Maharaj. If the attachment is pure, then you can feel some genuine spiritual vipralambha, but the attachment has to be pure. In other words, one is attached to one's Diksha Guru because of what he gave you, genuine spiritual life, the holy name. Not that you're attached to the spiritual master because he'd always praise me, he'd always promote me. It has to be spiritual. So this separation nourishes one's attachment. Attachment to Krishna, Vrindavan, Mayapur, Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda is constitutional. And the separation nourishes. And it's been recommended that we try to chant Krishna's holy name in a mood of separation. Hey Radhe Brajadeva Ki Chalalita. The Goswamis are running, searching for Lord Krishna, Lalita, Radharani, on the banks of the Jamuna at Radhakund, in the foothills of Govardhan Hill. Mood of separation is far, far superior than the idea of, oh, now I have met Krishna. Now I am dancing with Krishna. Now I am joking and talking with Krishna. This is being a little presumptuous. The mood of separation, where is Krishna? Where is Vrindavan? We're feeling that now because we want to go to Vrindavan. We cannot because of coronavirus. And now there's some second wave in India and it's getting worse. And I thought at least I might be able to go the end of the year. But it may not even be then. So what do I do? What does one do? You have to live in Vrindavan within your mind. Kuyid pasum vrajasada. Sada. Always live in Vrindavan, if not by body, by mind. Always live in Sridham Mayapur, bank of the Ganges, Gupta Vrindavan. So we'll continue with another verse of Gauranga Stava Kalpa Vriksha, my next recording. Thank you so much. Vancha Kalpa Durubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanevi Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha Vaishnava Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupa Raghunath ki jai, Guru Vaga ki jai, Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.